Hey everyone, I am the TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kyle, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we are coming fresh off of E3 season, without E3 because it's dead. I mean, that's just how it is now. But the spirit of it lives on, because we've had a lot of announcements from a lot of companies. They've been churning out those directs and direct equivalents, and I don't know if you checked out many of them, Kai, but they were honestly pretty consistently decent this year, I thought.
I'll be honest, I gave most of them a miss. Last year was so, mediocre that I just was like, I'll just see if there's any highlights afterwards.
Yeah, understandable. They still haven't hit like the direct Nintendo Direct level of consistency, but I feel like they were generally quite decent this year all around. We're not going to go too much into the other ones because I think we might have done a bit more, but then they had an actual Nintendo Direct at the end of it, and that's going to be
Yeah.
most of what we're talking about this week. But there'll be a few other tidbits as well, and some highlights from the other presentations that I want to call out. And of course, as always, there will be timestamps in the description below if you want to check out the different sections of the podcast. But let's just get started straight away with our first segment of the podcast, Can't Have a Podcast Without News Baby, where we go into the different news highlights of, in this case, June? Yeah, June. I have to remember what time it is sometimes. And the main thing to start things off was, of course, the Summer Games Fest, which, as part of it, was like the main Summer Games Fest presentation. Of course, you know, it's always Jeff and friends doing their thing. There's a bit of that, but there were some decent announcements in there, and the first one I want to specifically call out is Sonic Superstars, a brand new 2D Sonic game with 4 players, multiplayer as well. What did you think of what you've seen of that, Kai?
Honestly, looks good.
Yeah,
I'm surprised we haven't had something like this before now, so I'm glad that they are actually doing, it's their equivalent of the 2D Mario games, which of course we'll get to later on. But no, yeah, it looks good. Looks really like high quality visuals. Really like suits the Sonic style, which I like. It's cool that you got the different characters. The music seems amazing as it always is with Sonic.
yeah.
Honestly, pretty positive views from my end.
Yeah, it's looking interesting. I mean, definitely interesting that they decided to go with a full-on brand new 2D Sonic rather than, say, Mania 2, which of course was a really beloved game people were hoping for a
Yeah.
sequel. But it's kind of nice that it seems they're doing new stuff, because as much as people love Mania, I know a big criticism is it just like, it reuses loads of past Sonic areas, you know, the 200th
Yeah.
version of Green Hill Zone, that kind of thing, they always do. So it seems like there's more variety and taking things in a bit of a new step now. I do wonder how multiplayer's gonna pan out, because four player can get chaotic even in like Mario, and Sonic is meant to be fast paced, so I wonder if it's gonna like do split screen, or if you're just going to have like a bubble equivalent and you're just going to be teleporting to the player one all the time.
I'm
It'll be
not
interesting.
sure. Yeah. I wonder
Yeah.
if it'll be like. I mean, my theory, which is probably going to be really wrong, is I think it would almost make sense to have it like you do in the Lego series, where when you're far apart, it then goes into split screen.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't even know if that would work. Honestly, it's a really tough one because it's just a faster paced Mario game, like 2D Mario game, and even those struggled with making this kind of thing happen where you could have multiple people on the screen at a time. So, who knows?
Definitely one to keep an eye on. I've mentioned before, I don't actually really like 2D Sonic, so as much as I'm praising how good it looks, I'm not going to get it.
Oh yeah,
Especially
I'm
given,
not picking it up either. Yeah.
yeah, especially given some certain competition we're going to be talking about later down the line that just got revealed. But
Yeah.
it's good to see more Sonic stuff, and it looks decent, because you know, like Frontiers, I had my concerns about, but apparently that was pretty good as well. So yeah, good for Sonic fans.
Yeah, it's looking
And
good.
yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to call out from the Summer Games Fest show is, of course, a huge one, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 Rebirth. We got our first sort of proper trailer for that, and it looked just about as crazy as people were expecting coming off the first game. God knows what they're doing with the lore. It's getting to like Kingdom Hearts levels, it seems, but I think that's a good thing. It looks fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of follows a lot of the elements that the first part of the remake did. it just looks like really good.
Yeah.
Visually, it's one of the most impressive games I've seen today. Yeah, there's not much else to say about it. It just looks really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing when they give a little bit more info about it, maybe.
Yeah, and it's no wonder, given how good it looks. It's been split across 2 discs. We're going back to that system, so...
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just rip my PS5 storage. I mean, that's all I've got to say on that. It might be able to hold on barely, but it looks great. We see sort of some of the characters in action, like Yuffie with the main squad, because of course she was only in the DLC before this. We see them doing like team-up attacks, which look kind of new, and exploring the world outside of Midgar, which is, I'm wondering how they're going to handle that, because in the original game, Midgar's this contained area, and it's when you leave you get the open world, so it's definitely going to be interesting, because it looks like, from what we can see, you're just free exploring the world map. It's not like the original game where you kind of explore like a mini-map, how old RPGs used to do it, where like you're big compared to the map itself and you just walk from town to town, that kind of system. It doesn't seem like they're doing anything like that, so it'll be interesting to see how it handles it, how much is in the game, and how much is going to differentiate from what was in the original. But either way, like, they didn't even need to show me anything. I'm so hyped for this, and I don't mind it being delayed till next year because there's so much to play. So
yeah, I do wonder how that open world is going to be tackled. That does look like the approach they might be going in. It explains why it's on 2 discs, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just funny how, like, we sort of eclipsed needing discs because of how large memory spaces ended up evolving. But then games have been now evolving even further and faster, especially in this case. It's a very fascinating one, but hey, as long as it's good quality, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just, no matter what it ends up being, I'm just excited to try it out. I mean, the gameplay of the first was already perfect. They don't even need to do anything to really improve it, but I'm sure they will as well, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Very excited for this one next year. And that's most of all I got from the Summer Games Fest presentation. Afterwards, there was a Microsoft show where they showed off like Starfield and Fable, which people are hyped for. Do you have anything to say about those, Kai, or...?
Oh, nothing at all. Like, people have been saying Starfield is good, but I have no good judgment on any of that.
Yeah, I might have gone into it a bit, but because of the Nintendo Direct, we can skip over that. Looks alright. But the next one I want to mention, and this is more of a me thing, but it's the Ubisoft presentation. Specifically because they showed off the new Star Wars game, Star Wars Outlaws, which is our first upcoming Star Wars game not made by EA and one of their teams, now that the license has sort of opened up. And it looks fascinating, because it kind of seems to be you're playing as like a kind of a Han Solo kind of type, sort of a rogue, going out and dealing with the criminal syndicates. And it seems it's a whole sort of open world kind of system where you can go from planet to planet, you can sort of forge alliances, and the things you do have repercussions. So if you start shooting up loads from the Pike syndicates, then they're gonna start, becoming enemies with you, start hunting you down. It seems to really... I haven't really played one of those kind of games before, but it seems fascinating. I don't know if you saw any of this, Kai, or what you think of that.
Yeah, I saw a bit of it. It's a very interesting approach, like you say, very unique compared to the classic just, Star Wars is lightsaber and pew pew, stormtrooper. Like, it's not that. This is kind of a different vibe. I feel like they've been shifting towards this kind of thing recently, which I think is good. It's cool to see that variety. And you're the real Star Wars expert, so I won't go too into it, but I will say it looks like, just like you say, a super interesting approach to it, and I'm interested to see how that fleshes itself out.
Yeah, definitely. Whilst like the Jedi Survivor games are more my typical type of game, and I'm going to be having more on that later in Games Time, but I love that they're doing more variety now, and this, if there's anything that's going to get me to try out other genres of games, it's Star Wars,
Yeah, exactly.
I play just for the world, the characters, and the weird lore stuff that happens, so I'm on board. Definitely looking forward to seeing how this one turns out.
Yeah.
The next one, which Kai, you might have an interest in here, Capcom's presentation, where, I've been asking for it for like a year now, and finally it's coming. Ace Attorney Apollo Justice Trilogy, coming to Switch and other platforms early next year. thank God I made the right decision holding off on the 3DS ones.
I mean, this has been a big thing for you because you've been saying like,
Yeah.
or like the eShop is shutting down. I've got to pray that they release it on the Switch, and they have, which is very good. I wasn't
Yeah.
100% sure they'd do it, but considering that they don't seem to be putting all their focus on another mainline game, it makes sense that this is what they'd do.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the right decision to make. They exist on mobile, but the games you much would rather play on the console. It's definitely more at home there. And I also I only ended up buying Leighton versus Right because I thought that's never gonna get remade. And honestly, at this point, with Leighton coming back, maybe it will, but it's not impossible. But still, definitely glad I waited out for it. Looking forward to trying out these games and playing the trilogy because it's the only ones I'm really missing outside of Investigations. Then I don't know, Kai. I know you've seen the first two, but not the third one, right? So I don't know what you're thinking about picking this up or not.
It's a very awkward one when they release them in Trilogy. Like, obviously that's a good thing overall for people, but I'm very familiar with Dual Destinies, the middle one. I'm familiar enough with the first game, and then Spirit of Justice, the final one, I'm blind on. So it's a really awkward situation of like, I don't know what to do about this. I should have just picked it up on the eShop, and I never did, so...
True,
I don't know, but I'm sure we'll be hearing your thoughts on the games at least when you get around to them on the podcast.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a good trilogy is the thing. I think the most jarring part is going to be that the fourth game is 2D still, because it was on the DS, but then the fifth and sixth are both the 3D style suddenly. So if you're playing them all in sequence, that might be a little bit jarring, but I'm sure you'll get used to it.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to trying these out for the first time. I mean, after Great Ace Attorney and the original trilogy, this is a day one buy for me now, so yeah, definitely will be playing it, probably spread them out over the course of next year. But here's something that I know you got, Kai, and it's just, we're out of the, having a brief break from the direct news for a moment here, because out of nowhere, just like on Twitter, Nintendo said, hey, do you guys want the Triangle Strategy update? And everyone was like, what?
It's so weird. The game came out like over a year ago. It was like a year and 3 months.
Yeah.
Something like that. Oh, what? Why have they done this? So yeah, in that update, there were two main things. One of them was that you can now go back and replay story chapters, or like story battles, which is good because it's a kind of weird situation where in between, chapters and stuff, you were able to play like basically every map you were able to play because you had like what they called the mock battles. Basically, your how do I explain it? That's your way to just grind levels if you want, essentially. Like your random side quest missions. And then the story missions were on the same maps, but of course had slightly different enemies and things like that. You had story impact that wasn't there otherwise, like reinforcements that wouldn't normally appear. So it's nice that you can go back and play those now. It's actually really convenient. So that's nice. I went back and just replayed one of them for fun. But then the main draw was, they said, we've added a new chapter to the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really good. Like, what's this going to be? I didn't know what it was going into it. I was like, I'm so rusty on the gameplay. I'm really not sure how I'm going to do here. And then I realised as I went through it, there's no gameplay. I'm just going to let you know right now because I was misled. Yeah, so the entire new chapter, quote unquote, can only be done after you've beaten like the true route of the game.
Right.
So it might not even necessarily be the ending you get. Like if you don't get the right ending, then you still don't unlock this. Which is funny. This only unlocks after the true ending, and without going into spoilers, there's like maybe like a minute long, 2 minute like cutscene at the end of the game. Not like an animated one or anything, just regular like this is how it ends. And all this new chapter is that like 30 seconds of that final bit fleshed out into about 20 minutes or so of dialogue.
Right.
And off the bat, that sounds like miserable. It's like, why would you bother doing that? All it does is, with maybe like 6 or 7 characters, it basically brings a close to their story where before it was left a bit vague. You know, one person's story might be, oh, I really wanted to reunite with this other person. And then in this epilogue, where before it was implied that they reunited, in this there's like a 3-minute cutscene where they actually do reunite and that sort of thing. So they just gave a little bit of closure to everyone, and it's nice, but they shouldn't have called it an extra chapter, because I was ready to get some gameplay on. I was getting ready for a sequel to be set up. But it wasn't.
I thought it was already a weird enough addition, but from what you said, it just makes it even more confusing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, I can't judge too much, because if they said we're adding, I don't know, 10 more minutes of dialogue explaining some lore to Xenoblade Future Redeemed, I'd be like, yes, I'm eating that shit up, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's not a bad thing, but it is. I wonder, like, what's the reasoning for it? Like, what led them to update? Was it something that they just didn't finish in time? But then, even if that was the case, why would it be added a year later, not a month later? Like,
yeah, because it wasn't necessary. Like, it was nice, but it wasn't at all necessary. And it's voiced, is the big thing. Like, it's all voiced by certain characters. So I'm confused. Did they bring back all these voice actors to do, like, 2 minutes worth of dialogue? Or did they already have this ready and just didn't implement it because they didn't want the ending to seem too long? If that's the case, why would they wait this long? I don't know.
Yeah, I could be wrong here, because this is going off something I heard, and I only vaguely know, but I believe it is actually, like, more recent voice acting. Like, it is, they recorded new lines for it, because I believe one of the actors who passed away was replaced by a different voice actor, which you would obviously imply.
Strategy?
Yes, I think.
Oh.
I can't remember the name. It was Billy Camet, sadly. I don't know who he voiced in the game, but hopefully I got all that right. But yeah, I believe it was mentioned that he was recast in this, which of course would imply, yes, it was more recently recorded lines, not old stuff.
Oh,
so,
of course he was. I remember that. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. That would make sense. Yeah.
Which does, I mean, why bring the voice cast back just for a 10-minute scene with no gameplay? That's not DLC. It's such a bizarre situation. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just,
Yeah, and the character he voices actually, I think, appears in that last chapter thing as well. I don't know if there's any significance to that, but yeah, okay. I mean, I guess they just added it in as a bit of an extra thing, but yeah, it's a very odd decision that they made to just have that cutscene in there. But hey, I'm not complaining.
I mean, we could go full on theory and think, are they making a sequel and that's why they did it? But that's, you know, I don't want to get your hopes up, Kai.
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, because even if they were, you know, doing a sequel for Triangle Strategy, again, without going into spoilers, it doesn't feel like the kind of story where they would do a sequel with the same cast and everything. It would be more of an Octopath thing where it's an entirely new cast with a similar format.
Yeah, that would make more sense. But, interesting.
Indeed.
Bizarre, but interesting. And speaking of things that are very interesting, we got a new Nintendo Direct, so let's finally dig into that. And it was a decent, I mean, we did a reaction to it, we sort of gave our overall thoughts in that, so you can check that out on our channel. But it was a good one, sort of not like a massive hitter, but there were a lot of, like, really interesting things, particularly for Mario. And you can tell that they wanted to cash off of the Mario movie being like a billion seller at the box office, because one of the first things we got was Super Mario RPG getting a remake. Finally, after all these years, people have been wanting it on NSO, but nope, they're like, have a remake instead, and I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Honestly, I think that should have been the opening thing for the Direct, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC looked... I mean, maybe Pokemon fans enjoyed it and it looked alright, but I feel like even to those fans, it wasn't like a stellar, big reveal thing. Mario RPG was, like, impact. They should have put that first, because it's such a huge reveal and it looks really good.
Oh, it does. Like, I am not familiar with the original at all, outside of the fact that I know people love it. But just the visual upgrade here, how they managed to sort of keep a very unique style. They didn't like generic Mario-fy it by making him look like, the new Super Mario Bros. Model or anything. They have this sort of squashed, chibi kind of look almost for all the characters, which is really charming. And the Steam environments look ridiculous when it comes to like the lighting and the textures on it all. It looks so colourful and fun, and damn, I need to get this game.
Honestly, my favourite part was the music in that. Like, it was jazzy. Yeah. It was so jazzy. I loved it.
It's being fully remixed. Of course, it's done by Yoko Shimomura, who does a ton of great music like Kingdom Hearts, etc. So a very well-known composer. So
yeah, legend.
We are in for something. I am absolutely sure. It's it's going to be something special, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pick it up day one or maybe ask for it for Christmas or something. But I'm getting it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it just looks really good. I'm happy for the Mario RPG fans, obviously. So it makes a lot of sense of why this wasn't on NSO. Like, obviously, it's here now, and it seems like it's going to live up to expectations. I don't feel like it's even possible for it to let down anywhere. So, my hopes.
Looks like it's going to be good, and it's coming out in November, I believe. So not too long to wait, really.
Yeah.
But something they also announced coming next year actually is a Peach game. Like, that's all we know. We don't know anything about it really, besides a brief look at Peach moving about some Toad town, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Such a bizarre reveal because it's usually Nintendo recently have got in the habit of showing games when they're like a few months off release. That they sort of got into that system generally now.
Yeah.
With some few exceptions. And I guess they wanted to get a head start on this to build on the Mario hype and all the people, liking Peach in the new movie. But what even is this going to be?
Yeah, we can't really tell. I mean, looking at the gameplay, we just weren't really sure exactly what it was. It was some kind of a side-scroller-esque, but also not quite. It's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, it definitely, there's not too much we can really say about it with what we saw, because there isn't really much to go on, but I like that we're getting, a Peach game, give us some more weird Mario spin-offs. They're always fun, so, like Mario RPG, so I can't complain about more weird Mario stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm super curious to see how it'll develop over next year, and hopefully it's just a really good quality game, because at the moment we don't know what the gameplay is, so...
Yeah, very true. And I guess whilst we're on the Mario stuff, Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark Moon's getting a remake on Switch, which, sure, why not?
It wasn't. The thing is, I feel like there's this easy misconception that Luigi's Mansion 2 was a bad game just because people didn't really hear about it nearly as much with it being on the 3DS. It's a pretty decent game. It's not a bad game at all. It just didn't pick up the traction that 3 and obviously the original did. So it's good to see that there, and the whole trilogy's on the Switch now.
Definitely, good to see it get another chance and more people to play it. And also, again, keeping on the Mario trend, WarioWare Move It, kind of like a Smooth Move sequel almost, it appears, using motion controls. And it looks completely batshit insane in the best way possible.
Yeah. Oh, the schmooves. It's so interesting because WarioWare games, there's the idea of the WarioWare games are coming out all the time, it feels like. They've always been coming out all the time. The WarioWare development cycle is crazy with how often they're just releasing games on every single console all the time. So it's I don't know how they keep coming up with this stuff. Whatever they're having, I want in because, wow.
True. Yeah. I had an interest in the most recent WarioWare game that came out. Was it last year before? I thought it was an interesting idea. Yes, I thought it was an interesting idea where you play as the different characters and it mixes up how you do go about performing a mini game. I thought that was a cool idea, but this is more my speed, going back to the Smooth Moves motion control stuff. If they have the different forms with the narrator back, God, they have to do it.
Yeah.
That was one of the best bits of the Wii game, but this definitely... It's coming out November, which, this is similar time as Mario RPG and whatnot, so I'm not sure I'll be able to pick it up at least at launch, but I really want to play this one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be picking it up either, but I hope that it's good once again. I'm sure it'll be consistently WarioWare.
Yes.
Yeah, good fun, really. Simple as that.
Exactly. But the last Mario game, this is what they ended the direct on, but I'm going to mention it whilst we're doing the Mario stuff, is
Yes.
a brand new 2D Mario. We were anticipating like an Odyssey sequel this year, but no, we're getting a 2D Mario. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, where he's an elephant for some reason. But that aside, God, it looks crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. Like, at first I was thinking, oh, really? They went back to this when Mario Maker exists? I thought that was the end of the series. But they've made this worth its buck. Like, it's so unique. They've added so many different quirks to it now, with that
Yeah.
maybe being the best way to even describe it. It just looks very high quality, visually great, music is great, and of course the main thing is the gameplay, where it just all seems to flow really well, all of the new elements they've added in.
It does. Like, I think the new Super Mario Bros. Series, I think it gets overdunked on, I would say. Like, I think people criticize it a bit too much, but I definitely agree that it felt a bit by the numbers, it was very basic Mario stuff. But this is so much more expressive. Just something like the animations where Mario runs through a pipe and then grabs his hat afterwards as it doesn't follow him through. Or the way he crouches and he like pulls his hat over his head like in the Paper Mario games. There's all these little... Even the way he moves, it's almost like he's got a kind of a lower frame rate or something, but he kind of moves... It gives him a completely different flair. And of course, we've got Luigi and Peach and Daisy playable for the first time in the mainline Mario game as well. Like, they are definitely making something different here, which I think is the most important part. Is this isn't just like another 2D Mario, because you couldn't do that after Mario Maker, like you say. This is something fresh, and God, why is there so much to play?
No, yeah, I do like the new style they've given him, though, where they've made him look really expressive. Nothing bad to say about it. And I think that I gave this Direct a bit of a hard time when we first went through it, saying it was one of my least favourites in a while. But again, that's because we've been getting, like, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailers and Xenoblade 3 stuff, like, over the last year. Like, that's a hard one to stand up to. So, of course, although it didn't have those things in, like, I should still give it credit for being a good trailer, especially because of some of the other stuff in it that I'm sure we'll get to, and because of things like Wonder.
Yeah, I hope this has online multiplayer, because I know you've mentioned this could be a fun one for us to play for the channel, or even like on a stream or anything. Like, this would be a really fun one to play, so fingers crossed.
It should. Like,
3D World had it.
3D World had it. Mario Maker is able to do anyone playing online together. So even if you just did it as, like, you can only play with friends, like, they have the capability to do it as online, and I think they absolutely, like, should. And if they don't, that's going to be a bit of a letdown, personally.
It will be interesting, because I know, like, the Sonic game you mentioned doesn't have online multiplayer, at least not
which is also
co-op multiplayer. Yeah, I guess maybe that's different because of how fast you move through the levels. Maybe that affects it. So maybe Mario Wonder is safe, but we'll see. Either way, definitely one that I'm fascinated in getting. It comes out the same day as Spider-Man 2, which throws a spanner in the works. Because God, what am I going to buy the month before Mario RPG as well? It's
too many games.
I'll probably still be playing Tears of the Kingdom at that point, to be honest with you. But it's I'm getting this. I just don't know when I'm getting this. Is the situation again? But definitely not something I was expecting to see. But I'm glad that we are getting it.
Yeah, it completely caught me off guard, but in a good way.
Yes, and I guess for one thing that we definitely were expecting to see, I'll hand it over to you, Kai. Pikmin 4. We got a sort of a more in-depth look at the game upcoming. What did you think of the new trailer?
It was really good. We hadn't seen too much from Pikmin 4 before this, so there was a little bit of, we think it's going to be good, but we haven't got 100% confirmation. It looks really good now. I guess as an update from before the Direct, we got shown how there is a character creator system in the game. It seems like, at the very least, your main character who you play as, you can customize how they look. Everyone else, like all the other captains in the game, I personally think you'll be able to customize most of them, because when you rescue them in the most recent trailer on the Direct, they all have like clouded spacesuits. So I think that when you recover them, that's when you get to like change how they look. But I don't know, I could be wrong. So, there's that, and although I think that does take away a little bit from some possible story elements, like the characters in Pikmin 3 were like really expressive and vibrant, so you kind of lose a bit of that, but custom Pikmin character creator is also pretty cool, so I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw just a little bit more gameplay in general. We saw like a new indoor area, which was pretty sick.
Oh, in like a straight up human house, yeah. Just
yeah, human house. I mean, as we know, Pikmin is the best. It's not the only vibrant post-apocalyptic lore-based Nintendo main party game. Splatoon also has that, as well as various other things.
True.
So that looks really good. Of course, we've seen more of the underground dungeons got confirmed. I can't remember if they were before this.
I don't think so.
No, yeah, this might have been new. So they've confirmed those. And dear lord, one of them looks terrifying. The one with all the different fans that blow you across in the bottomless pits. Oh, it's Pikmin 2 flashbacks. Oh no, speaking of which, Pikmin 1 and 2 were now on the Switch as well. And I have been having an amazing time on Twitter with people who thought that Pikmin was a farming game going into the Pikmin 2 dungeons and just like losing everything. It's been so entertaining to see people just freak out.
Yeah, I've heard the horror stories of the water wraith, so
yeah, I mean, Pikmin 2 is genuinely one of the hardest mainline like Nintendo games. It's definitely the most deceptively difficult, but I can't think of a single mainline Nintendo game that's actually trickier than Pikmin 2. It's just on that level.
I couldn't even get through one, so I'm too intimidated to try them out. But it's good to see more people playing the series.
Yeah, that's been so entertaining, and I'm glad that people have actually been taking advantage of this, and it's not just gone under the radar. But yeah, with Pikmin 4 here, the dungeons look equally as terrifying in places, probably more forgiving and less glitchy, because, dear lord, those early games are glitchy. But yeah, it looks good. At one point, we see a character who basically looks like an overgrown Olimar. He's got like the fuzz on him, which is kind of funny, and he's got like his own like moldy Ochi, I guess is the best way to describe it. And they introduce a new mode called Dandori Battle, which just seems to be like a little arena, and it's sort of similar to the bingo battle that existed, where you collect up as many things as you can. Honestly, looks like a really fun mode. I hope it's online multiplayer again. I don't think it'll be. I think this one will just be local, but that's okay. And of course, it seems like there's AI-based battles in the story as well, so you don't have to have a friend to play it. I can be lonely. I never got to play Bingo Battle in Pikmin 3. But outside of that, they introduced a bunch of other things. You have upgrades, which you spend. That's what you collect your treasure for, so you can upgrade Ochi in multiple different ways. It seems like you can upgrade like your own character's stats as well. That's how you unlock things like your protection against different elements, for example, rather than like finding them in the overworld. And I think all that makes sense for Pikmin. It's sort of course it's not 100% open world, but you are thrown into these open areas with different orders that you do things in. That's one of the main draws of it. So I think it makes complete sense for them to have upgrade trees for that. I actually really like it.
Yeah, in general, it just seems like they're advancing the series in an interesting way. I mean, you kind of wonder, like, how far can Pikmin go? It's a very simple concept, it's not like it can do crazy lore stuff, really. So, it was interesting to see what we're going to get with 4, but it does look like they're getting the right combination of it's familiar, but also it's expanding out in different ways that it's not just going to feel like more of the same.
Yeah, no, it's doing everything very well. Like, it's hit the mark well. There's nothing where it's like, ooh, I don't really know about that. That's not a very good decision. No, everything here is just solid, and I feel like that's solidified even more when you go to the nighttime phase and have the glow Pikmin as the next announced Pikmin type. I'm guessing them and Ice are going to be like the 2 Pikmin types introduced in this game, as is custom. Glow Pikmin look really cool, I've got to say. They are a big fan favourite. They're a really unique design, and how they can sort of do that little teleporting style thing. They can just turn into a spirit bomb to attack enemies, which looks awesome. Yeah, really, really cool Pikmin type. Everyone's been calling for a green type. Back in the day, I used to watch a lot of like Pikmin idea videos, and green oh my god, I mean, some of them are terrible, oh my lord. People saying green Pikmin, they camouflage in the grass, and it's like, oh, okay. Poison
We need to
Pikmin.
get Sam on this, Kai. We're going to get Sam to draw up our own Pikmin designs.
Yeah,
you know
people
he'd do
would be
it.
saying green poison Pikmin, forgetting that that's literally what white Pikmin do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they did glow Pikmin really well, and then they just showed off a bunch more shots of everything, and yeah, it just looks good. Just looks really good, and
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely glad to see it's looking promising upcoming, because it's been a long time waiting for Pikmin 4, so it's nice to see it living up to expectations.
Absolutely, yeah, it's looking great.
The next, I guess the sort of the final main thing I want to mention from the Direct is that we got a tease for the next Mario Kart Booster Course DLC wave, which we only got one track. We got it's a bathroom. It's sure.
Yeah.
it's just a bathroom. There's a toilet. There's a bathtub. I mean, it's a bathroom.
What more could you want, honestly?
About time, Mario's been missing something, and I've always said it's a bathroom place. So, but it does look like a really unique and fun
I can already
course.
imagine the different jokes you can make.
Oh yeah. We've also got we've got Wriggler coming back. We've got P.T. Piranha and Carmec. It's the first time I've ever heard anyone pronounce it that way, but that's how they pronounced it.
That guy didn't know what he was talking about.
Yep, it is Carmec. I will not hear otherwise. If they say that officially, I will still my headcanon's the right one in this case. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It looks good though. I'm sure we'll find out more probably this month. We'll get a Twitter announcement for the full drop. But definitely looks like a fun new course, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, seems great.
And finally, really, I guess rush over a few things that I've got left is we're getting new Tears of the Kingdom amiibo of Zelda and Ganondorf. Detective Pikachu's getting its sequel, which went missing for 4 years, so sure. And there's a Ice Cream Splatfest. Those were the other things I got. Do you have anything to say about any of those or anything I missed, Kai?
I think that's about it. Yeah, the rest of the trailers were pretty meh. Oh, I mean, Game of the Year, Just Dance 2024 edition got announced.
That's true. Yeah.
So Detective Pikachu's returning. So hopefully that's good. Honestly, I don't think it visually looks amazing. It still looks like a 3DS game, but
it does.
We'll see. That's Pokemon nowadays.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's really about it.
Yeah, but overall, a pretty solid Direct. Like, again, we can't complain too much because it's hard to live up to Xenoblade and Zelda announcements in the same thing. And we just got those. So, still a really good Direct overall. But, I mean, what blew it out of the water? We're getting into the real news here, what we've all been waiting for. Among Us TV series! That's the real news.
Oh god, I peaked my mic. Oh no.
I mean, the funny thing is actually, I can't remember the name, but it's been, done by the creator of Infinity Train, which is an animated series, which is actually really good, so this has talent behind it, it might be good. I just wonder what they're going to do with it.
I have no idea what an Among Us TV show is. I can only imagine it's going to be one of those, I feel like they're going to be 5-minute episodes that are all these kind of skits, maybe, of different Among Us rounds or something. They'll be I don't know. I genuinely don't know what the plot is. I would love if they went a completely different route and made it hyper realistic, super serious kind of stuff. But I think it's just going to be a comedic every episode is 5 minutes and it's just a round of Among Us that's kind of funny with no voice acting. It's all just animated out. I think it'll be really charming though, regardless of what they do with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned it being serious. I mean, the creator behind it, who made Infinity Train, that series gets pretty dark. It's often
yeah.
So it's not. It goes into serious issues and deals with kids on this place dealing with their trauma. Basically.
Are we gonna learn the plight of capitalism from Among Us? Come on.
It's not impossible. It could happen. But,
amazing.
I mean, we're just getting the meme. I mean. Did you see the trailer for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie as well just dropped, so
Yeah, there's that too.
we're getting like the meme games stuff released apparently. So it's interesting. Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I don't. It depends where it drops. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch this, to be honest with you. But if it comes onto Netflix, I might check it out. I'm curious, at the very least, to see the trailers.
Yeah, no, it seems pretty chill, so I don't know. I probably won't watch the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, but the Among Us content, where did they say they were releasing that? Was it HBox?
I don't know, right? If they've announced it, I'm not sure. So,
I mean, if it's Netflix, I'm watching it, like,
yeah,
of course I am.
Exactly.
Me and the boys, like, you need that meme of, like, me at the wedding or whatever, and then me at the Among Us opening screening, and it's like, we're all going to be wearing our suits and everything. Of course, it's going to be great.
Kai, I'm going to have to edit that and put this in the video now. You know it's going to happen. But yeah, interesting at the very least. But that does bring us to the end of the news for this month. A lot of stuff there, some crazy stuff. But let's, before we surpass the hour mark in this one, let's get on to our final segment of the podcast, Games Time, baby, where we talk about games that we've been playing over the past month. And Kai, why don't you start us off? What have you been playing throughout June?
I actually can't remember. I mean, here's the thing about it. I've been streaming Future Redeemed, which we've of course been talking about separately. And then I've just been starting... what is it? I've been starting Tears of the Kingdom. So I could talk about Tears of the Kingdom, just the opening thoughts. Have I talked about Civ on the podcast before? I feel like I have.
I think you have, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll give some opening thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom, but of course we're going to be doing a proper video talking about this like later down the line, but this is probably what I'll be playing for the next like 3 months, so strap in. So yeah, I mean, it's great, is put simply. We talked about a lot about this before starting recording, of course, and just they've made this worth its title as a sequel. You know, it's like, oh, it's the same map, and it's the same physics, it's the same style, whatever. But there's so much new here. Like, everything is new. Even to the point where I feel like disoriented on the map, despite 100%ing Breath of the Wild. Everything just feels fresh and difficult and scary at times, and I mean all of that in the best way. Like, it's been a really fun experience for me. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I talked a little bit about my opening thoughts. I'm now like 50 hours in, and I'm still nowhere near the end of this journey. But it just continues to impress. Like you say, there's so much more. Like, Breath of the Wild wasn't lacking in any way, but there's so much more variety to enemies, to combat, to exploring, to shrines. Even, you know, they've really like upped it in every single way, and it kind of like. I feel like Breath of the Wild almost... I'm not saying there isn't a reason to go back to it, because it is unique still. But, like, Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like just outdoes it in so many ways, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, because you look back at Breath of the Wild, and before Tears of the Kingdom was out, a lot of people were saying Breath of the Wild might be one of the best games of all time. And now you look back at it and think, wow, we really thought that was one of the best, like, games, now that we've got this? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It goes to show both how good Breath of the Wild was and how good Tears of the Kingdom is now. Like, it's crazy. How do Nintendo keep doing it? But
yeah, no, it's really good stuff though, and I mean, it goes without saying that the all the different opportunities to create stuff has been great. I've hardly scratched the surface of it. It's been so good.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to make more. But the best thing I've been able to do so far is put 4 wheels on a platform and call it a car. So we'll see if I can improve from there, because I'm struggling at the moment.
I've got at least double the time on you, and I don't think I've done much more creative than that. So
okay, cool.
I've had a lot of failed experiments.
Oh, that's
I've had a lot of fake.
Let's begin the experiments.
Honestly, the most complicated things. Yeah. Honestly, Kai, that's me when I'm trying to build the stuff to support those signs.
Yeah, I've been having a good time with those. I haven't struggled yet.
I haven't struggled, but I somehow come up with the most overcomplicated, concoctions for something, and then my sister walks past and watches and is like, "Why didn't you just do this in 2 moves?" And she doesn't even play video games or anything, and I'm like, "Oh yeah." So, But it's fun. Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, I beat my first battle talus when I was on like 5 hearts. So
Nice.
I was pretty proud of that. I built like a slope to get up to it and then attacked, and I was like, okay,
Oh,
I'm getting it
interesting.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really simple, but like just it felt like it was the start of like, oh, that's what's possible here. I see.
Yeah. That's a smart way of
Yeah,
doing it
really
because I
fun.
usually just glide off tree, but that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I've been learning all these different new ways that are possible, like with the pine cones and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
been
I
super
mean,
interesting to just learn all of this again.
yeah, not to go too far into it, but you can also get onto them by just using the true move where you travel up through the floor. If you
Oh,
just use
ascent.
that
Oh, I
underneath.
never even
Yeah.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You just use that underneath the platform and you can get
Yeah.
up there. So if you
It's
find the right spot.
crazy that
So
we
there's
both played so much Breath of the Wild and like
yeah.
this just all of the thought process is still so fresh with all of this. It feels there's the worry of like, oh, the whole charm of Breath of the Wild was that it was so fresh to everyone. Everyone was learning all these mechanics as you go along. And even to this day, people are learning new mechanics in Breath of the Wild, and it's like, that was the real
Yeah.
charm of it. And we were worried that it wasn't going to be the case in this one, but like, I mean, as you've just seen from this brief conversation, like, we're still just scratching the surface despite it having a lot of similarities. That just shows how good it is.
Yeah, it just continues to impress, and like you say, I'm going to be playing this for a long time. Like I don't need them to announce like DLC in the next direct or anything. I've got my hands plenty full at the moment, so
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, in for a good time. But yeah, obviously we will be talking more about that as we play more. I don't know at what point we're going to have to figure out when we complete sections and what kind of things we want to discuss, but we will be covering this at some point in depth.
Yes, we will.
But I guess to end off the podcast with what I've been playing outside of Tears of the Kingdom, I was able to finally beat Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which
Nice.
with some help, Kai tried to help me with some final side quests and stuff, and then it turned out my game was glitched, and but they patched it. They patched it, so now I've got 100% finally, and it's just talking of Tears of the Kingdom being like a really impressive sequel. It's the same thing for Jedi Survivor. Like coming off the first game, which was just really had this great balance of sort of Metroidvania exploring, almost like Dark Souls style sort of combat with the lightsaber and how you have to be careful and meticulous with your moves. And then bringing that, like, how do you increase, your abilities? Like throughout the first game, you're learning so many different new Force abilities. You can't just start a new game and then do a Metroid Prime and then you just, you get hit by something and you forget all your abilities. It wouldn't work in Star Wars. So what they did was they just said, fine, when you start the game, you just have all your abilities from the first game, and we're going to give
Wow.
you more, a bunch more throughout the game, and it's not going to be confusing, and you're going to have enough buttons on your controller, and it works. Like, somehow, it shouldn't work,
Wow.
but it's really impressive. They've done it, and there's so many new different things you can do from traversal. You've got, like, this sort of grappling hook, where you can launch yourself around platforms. You can do, like, a mid-air dash, which kind of feels like 3D Celeste at times. Especially some of the challenge modes. I know you saw me playing one of those, Kai.
Yeah.
They can be
Looked intense. It was good.
yeah, they're kind of ridiculous, but they're a lot of fun. But also, like combat, you have new ways to use the Force. You have different lightsaber types where you can like use a crossguard saber. You can dual wield now, or just use a gun as well, which is my personal favorite.
Yeah.
And it's a great system because none of them are mandatory. Like you never need to use one. But they each have different benefits and drawbacks depending on your play style. So everyone's going to gravitate towards certain things that just fit more depending on the kind of things they upgrade. It even like makes a different playthrough. Like if I wanted to play it again, there's lightsaber stances I didn't use half as much that I could really mix up how I play. There's so much to combat in this game. It just feels so fluid, and it can be difficult, but it's always fair because it always feels great when you manage to pull it off and do something badass. And in terms of
Yeah.
exploration, like they just took what was in the first game and expanded on it, where you've got these huge open places now. It's no longer fully linear, but particularly the main planet Kobo you go to, it almost not quite Tears of the Kingdom level, but you can explore different side paths that are completely optional. You can find hidden monsters to fight and hidden chests to get upgrades. There's so much more in terms of that, and whilst I do think that the planets are maybe a little less interesting than the first games, I still think they did a really good job with keeping things fresh and having variety still. And then in terms of story, again, a really impressive follow-up. The immediate thing I like, which is that they set it 5 years after the first game, and it's always nice when you have a time jump, so your characters are at a different point. They're not just at the same as they were before, but they've progressed. Characters have sort of drifted apart a bit, and you sort of see where they're at now and what the past 5 years that we haven't seen, how that's affected them differently. It really sets things up. Yeah, it makes things more unique, and also includes loads of, for a Star Wars nerd like me who reads books and comics and spends too much of my spare time in that universe, there's all sorts of things like it incorporates stuff from the High Republic, which is an era 200 years in the past from the books. It includes sort of battle droids from the Clone Wars, all voiced by their original voice actor, and all sorts of weird stuff in there for nerds to lap up. It's great. And whilst I think the first story is a bit more consistent, it's sort of, I'd say in general, this game opens things up a bit more, but it's a bit less focused maybe. Which is both it's a positive and negative depending on what you look at it. I think it was the right decision for the sequel. But I do think the first one had a bit more of a concisive story where you knew where it was going and it wrapped up things perfectly. Whereas this one, the villain sort of changes on and off throughout the story. You sort of differ between two different sorts of storylines happening, and it's a bit more spread out. But it still does a really good job of hitting those emotional moments, developing the characters, and when it gets good, obviously I can't say anything here because of spoilers, but there are certain points that are just, mouth agape insane, especially to Star Wars nerds. But even if you're not one, even if you have a base level, it goes places. And honestly, if you liked the first game, there's no doubt you're going to love this one. It's a fantastic sequel. This is how you do a sequel, and I'm glad that I've been playing so many good sequels lately with Tears of the Kingdom and this and Future Redeemed. They're making good follow-ups. Yeah. It's great to see. But yeah, really, really good game. Definitely left it feeling very impressed. And it's crazy because literally playing that and Future Redeemed and Tears of the Kingdom back to back and sort of overlapping at times. These are 3 Game of the Year contenders for me. I'm having a great time at the moment.
Yeah, eating very good at the moment. I'm glad it was a good sequel. It looks very good, just very solid overall, very well thought out. Yeah. Can't complain.
Definitely worth picking up if you're interested in Star Wars or if you enjoyed the first one. Very good sequel. But that's pretty much it, yeah. Going good at the moment. Of course, we'll have plenty more to talk about over the upcoming months. Hopefully, we may have lost all the direct stuff. That may have died down. But we're sure to be getting more updates, which we'll discuss in our next monthly podcast, as well as other games we've been playing. If we've been playing anything other than Tears of the Kingdom, who knows? Of course, we have different discussions as well. We're going to be doing more breakdowns on Future Redeemed, breaking down the story of that game. That'll be upcoming. Possibly some new gameplay stuff as well. Mario Party one day, Trine 3 one day. We'll make it happen.
We've just been trying to get Sam on it. I'm telling you guys, honestly. Give him some Kit Kats, please. Bribe him. Do anything.
Yeah, send him over. Harass him on Twitter. Do it. But of course, you can find all of that here on BunchaJokahs, audio-only versions on podcasting sites like Spotify, etc., or video versions on YouTube, all under the name BunchaJokahs. But Kai, where else can people find your content at?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn. I'm still just doing a couple random bits at the moment. I'll probably be playing the Pikmin 4 demo sometime next week. Or something like that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, then I'll be going into Inazuma 11.3 soon, and like I've said before, my Future Redeemed edits... Oh yeah, I guess since recording last, my Future Redeemed edits are now up on YouTube. So they're uploading daily at the moment. They're maybe halfway through by the time this goes out. So if you want to see my reactions to everything there, then yeah, that's all ready.
Absolutely. There'll be links in the description below, so go check all of that out. As well as a link to our friend Sam, who makes our graphic design work, our thumbnails, our logos, and will play Mario Party with us eventually. Probably. Maybe. But go check all that out, and we will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Goodbye.